What if the love of your life died in a tragic accident? But years later, a stranger whispers, "She's still alive." What if the funeral was fake? The body wasn't hers, and the people you trusted most had orchestrated it all. For 3 years, Richard West mourned his wife, but one chilling sentence from a barefoot girl shattered everything he believed. Emma is alive. What follows is a hidden trail of lies, betrayal, and a love story powerful enough to survive even death itself. In Seattle's elite circles, the name Richard West was more than just powerful. It was untouchable. A millionaire media mogul, with influence reaching far beyond city borders, Richard commanded respect, fear, and admiration. But despite his empire, there was something haunting about him. Since his beloved wife Emma had supposedly died in a tragic car crash 3 years ago, Richard had vanished from the public eye. He stopped attending events, refused interviews, and lived in self-imposed isolation. The only remnant of his once joyful life was a portrait of Emma that never left his office. He stared at it often, as though waiting for it to speak. Then, on a cold October evening, everything changed. Returning from a charity gala, one he had reluctantly agreed to attend, Richard did something unexpected. As his sleek black car passed a small cafe on the edge of town, he asked the driver to stop. Something inside him stirred, a desire to feel grounded, human, connected. As he stepped out, adjusting his long coat against the wind, he noticed a girl, barefoot, in a torn jacket, sitting by a trash container behind the cafe. Her eyes met his, and then she said something that nearly stopped his heart. "Emma is alive." At first it felt like a cruel joke, a hallucination. But the girl wasn't done. She whispered things only he and Emma had known. A lullaby Emma used to hum, the exact way she rolled her R's when nervous. Even the story behind the nickname Starfish, a name Emma once gave him in a moment of laughter. Richard froze. Every fiber of logic told him this was madness, but his heart beat faster with hope. The girl handed him a scrap of paper with an address, a shelter in Idaho. Against his advisor's warnings, Richard left for the shelter the very next morning. It was old but well kept, hidden from the chaos of modern life. There, among dozens of children, he heard whispers of a woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. She used a fake name and came and went like the wind, teaching the children how to stitch clothes, treat minor wounds, and survive with dignity. One boy said she made up songs to help him sleep. Richard's heart ached. Could it really be her? Back in Seattle, he launched a quiet investigation, and soon the cracks in the official story began to show. The medical examiner listed on Emma's death certificate, he hadn't been working the day of the accident. The autopsy report, forged. The body found in the car, not Emma's. Everything had been staged. She had vanished by choice. But why? The truth, when it came, was darker than he imagined. Emma had discovered something vile, a web of corruption within one of Richard's subsidiary companies. Money laundering, trafficking, falsified documents. When she confronted a board member, she was threatened, and rather than put Richard in danger, she fled, faked her own death with the help of a nurse friend and a former security officer who still owed her a life debt. Richard was stunned, but even as he tried to reach her, something terrifying happened. The shelter, where Emma had once appeared, reported surveillance footage, strangers watching. The same people who once tried to silence her had found her trail again. She vanished, leaving behind only fear and a final letter addressed to Richard. If you truly love me, stop searching. Don't risk your life. I'll always love you, wherever I am. But Richard couldn't stop, not when he knew she was out there, not when love refused to die. Then, one night, an anonymous call came through, a child's voice, trembling. "She's in the forest. She's hurt." Richard didn't wait for backup. He went alone, driving through the night to the edge of a wooded reserve near the border. He found her, collapsed near an abandoned chapel, bleeding from a gunshot wound, barely conscious, but alive. He carried her in his arms to the hospital and never left her side. While she recovered, his private team moved swiftly. The truth was exposed. Arrests were made. The mastermind behind it all? Grayson Blake, Richard's longtime business partner. He had used Emma's name to cover up millions in illegal operations, and when she got too close, he'd tried to erase her. But now, the world would know the truth. The press erupted with the story, the woman who returned from the dead, not for revenge, but to protect, to teach, to heal. Emma West became a national symbol of strength, resilience, and compassion. But to Richard, she wasn't a symbol. She was his heart, his home. Once she was discharged, the couple disappeared to a quiet cottage in the hills, far from reporters, city lights, and corporate wars. There, among the pine trees and soft winds, they began again. No headlines, no expectations, just two people relearning what it meant to be together. A few months later, they remarried. No paparazzi, no lavish celebration, just a promise. This time, no lies, no secrets, only love. They returned one final time to the shelter in Idaho. The same little girl who had whispered the impossible truth came running up to them, smiling. In her eyes, there was peace. Because love never dies. It just waits for the right time to return. Sometimes the people we love most carry burdens we never see. Emma chose to vanish not out of fear, but out of love, to protect the man she cherished from a danger he didn't even know existed. And Richard's unshakable belief, even when the truth seemed impossible, is what brought her back. This story reminds us that real love isn't just about being together during the easy times. It's about standing strong through the darkest storms, even when everything seems lost. Love doesn't give up. It waits, it protects, and when the moment is right, it returns, stronger than ever. So never stop believing in the power of love, truth, and the quiet strength of those who sacrifice everything for it.